I think we've
Yeah,
got enough here.
sure.
I'll introduce you and then you can pass it back to me.
Sounds good. Well, hello everyone. My name is Molly Simons, and I am the Associate Director of Development with the Davidson Athletic Fund. So I help support the men's soccer team. So I appreciate you all being on the call today. It's nice to see you virtually, and I hope to get to see you soon at a game. But we wanted to offer this virtual version of the kind of the summer tour that Mike has been on. He was able to gather at 3 different sites in the Southeast this summer. And again, wanted to be able to offer this to you if you weren't able to attend those. So thank you for joining us today. We're excited to talk soccer. I know you're familiar with Mike, but just wanted to share that this will be his 6th season as the head coach of the men's soccer program. 2023 was a great year for the Cats, finishing with 10 wins and notching the program's first ever A10 postseason victory win over Duquesne. And the team amassed their most regular season win since 2018 and posted a top 25 ranking in mid-October. So again, I'll turn it over to Mike to share some more program updates and ways for you to be involved and stay connected with our scholar athletes. You can see the size of the group is not huge, so it's definitely casual. If you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Or if you would rather use the Q&A feature, feel free to just pop any questions into the chat. But again, thank you for being here today, and I'll turn it over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Molly. Yeah, hey everybody. See a lot of familiar names. And I think, we've done a few of these in person over the past month and want to keep it kind of the same, same kind of vibe of just talk through some things that are going through the program, but then open it up and get some questions. There's in the last 2 weeks, college athletics has changed more than it ever has in the last 100 years. So, that means a lot of different things for college athletics as a whole, but also for us and kind of figuring out like how we compete. What does it do to us, even though, I don't think who we are and what our mission is ever changes. But like one of the things I've said to all the guys, and we've had, I think maybe like 30, 35 people that have showed up in Atlanta, Raleigh, and Charlotte, which has been awesome. You stack that on top of, 20, 25 that came to the alumni game. And I think like it's been a really good kind of connection of, almost like 50, 60 guys over the past few months. And I think it's one of the things that I'm really reaching out and talking to different alums about it is like this idea of how we make this thing stronger, right? How we strengthen the connections, how we get more engagement from alums. I think one of the really awesome things we've seen in the past month is alums connecting with other alums, right? So like, I was like just talking to Lucas, and Lucas is in Philly for the next few years in med school. There are other alums in Philly that Lucas doesn't know. And I think like getting people together from different generations, I think it really kind of like brings out that everyone's got this sort of shared experience, that we've got people doing such interesting things in different places. And it just expands kind of the group of, like the 7 classes that you played with during your time. So we're going to do a lot more of that. I think it's like the great strength of our program is the people and the success and the, interesting things that everyone goes off to do, but also like how significant the soccer experience was to them, and their friendships and their relationships remain. But I think there's still a lot of other relationships that are out there. So like one of the things that I'm just going to walk through, we've got, more just like talking points in a PowerPoint here. But here, let me see. All right, good enough. All right, so one of the things going forward, I think, is we're going to do a lot more programming with alums. We're going to do a lot more in person. We're going to try to create more opportunities to like really maximize, I think, the network that we have and the things that can come out of this. And just kind of try to give it more of a name and a structure. Like the idea of having a really kind of supportive, like you finish playing, you graduate from Davidson, and then how do you maintain your connection to this thing that's been such a, formative experience, and, the relationships that you have too. So, I mean, just clearly kind of outlining what we want to be. And we want to be one of the top programs in the A10. We want to consistently be in the top 35 and compete and obtain at-large bids when we don't win a conference championship. And we want to produce pro opportunities for players that we have coming in here that aspire to play after they graduate. But outside of that, where we can really excel and separate ourselves is the development of post soccer opportunities, and kind of get into a little bit of why I think we've become very unique within the landscape, how you guys can all be a part of that. It's we'll kind of talk through the portal and how a lot of the bigger programs have changed, and how we've kind of stayed the course and really committed to how we want to succeed. It's kind of small print here, but
Mike, sorry to interrupt. If you click that use slideshow button in the top of your screen there, I think that should make it larger for everybody.
Right. Yeah. I was happy to get it up and running, but that's even better.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So like just looking through some of the things, and I think, we go a few generations back. We've got guys who played before, maybe, certainly before the portal became a thing. International players have taken over college soccer. I mean, that's become such a significant thing over the last 10 to 15 years. Like one thing I don't think alums, maybe outside of guys that played recently, realize is that the last 3 seasons and one more, we've been playing against 5th and 6th year players when we have none, which is, something that we've just sort of taken on. But after this year, that the COVID 5th year goes away and we won't have to deal with that anymore. NIL, which, is kind of dripping into college soccer, but not massively impacting it. And then the house settlement, which, is the big development that happened. Technically schools can go up to 28 full rides. I don't think that's really going to happen. I think if anything, I think there's going to be more of a resource drop in college soccer, but there might be a few programs that really increase their scholarships. Like us, as far as our impact, our roster is now capped at 28. Right? We can't go above 28 anymore. We go into this season at 27. We have had one that's been over, 1 or 2 over 28, but now we're kind of bound by that. At the bottom of the page, I just have an example of what's been fairly common and current, the last few years is like SMU's leading scorer last year was playing at his 4th school in 4 years. We've had maybe 4 transfers in the last like 4 to 5 years, where that really impacts culture and other individual, the individual experiences. Transfers come in and they replace somebody, right? They eliminate an opportunity that someone thought they had. And culturally for us, we bring in and we develop players, and we very rarely bring someone in from the outside that supplants anyone on the depth chart. Whereas a lot of these other places have turned into versions of pro clubs where it's just any given year you could be number 2 in the depth chart, and then next year you could be without a roster spot, or you could be number 4. Just kind of highlighting some of the things that haven't changed for, that we've got to deal with. We're still at a little less than 2 endowed scholarships. We've got to spread that around. We use need-based aid really effectively to kind of stretch that, but we lose some players because we can't be financially competitive. Over the past few years, we've had to fundraise just to pay for our second assistant and to pay for our kind of budget overage with the travel and everything that we've got to finance. And that's, it's been significant. One of the things, for everyone that's seen the Slagle endowment, is over the next few years, that endowment is going to start to take care of the second assistant position, which will be great, but it's going to kind of phase in over the next 4 to 5 years. And, year to year fundraising, like we make decisions on what we can do based off of how strong fundraising is. Maybe we can add a little bit more scholarship. Maybe we can do more official visits. Maybe we can bring parents in on official visits, which, most of the bigger programs do. Like our team building trip we did last fall was entirely through fundraising. So, a lot of cool things we can add to the experience that we don't have built within the budget. And obviously, we can talk about the impact that alums have in all of that, the current experience, but also in sort of the lasting ones. These are kind of some fun ones for maybe guys who haven't maybe not as familiar with like our roster relative to some others. All right. So I won't name programs here, but we'll keep them anonymous. But local power programs that were, in the quarterfinal or beyond last year. And this is, so our first recruiting class when I got here was, came in 2020. This is, if you look at, just go down that 2020 column, like Team A, 11 players brought in. Look how many games played, games started. And the ones I highlighted, those are international players, right? Those are guys that were brought in on a full ride. They were targeted to come in and make an impact. They're probably 21, 22 coming in. They're not 18-year-old domestic freshmen. And then you kind of look at how those careers track over 4 years. And this is the experience that's pretty common at Power 5 schools now, right? So, you look at the outcome. So like Team A, you've got, if you look at the domestic players that came in, you see one player started two games, the other left the team, 0 games, 4 games, left school, transfer, 0 games, transfer, signed in the USL after a sophomore year, left the team, 5 games, right? So what these programs offer as far as the substance of the experience and the commitment to the player relative to us is it doesn't compete, right? But, there still are big brands and, facilities, locker rooms, things that attract these players. But, Team B, same thing. It's like you look at the 2 highlighted players, they're the international full ride. And then you kind of go down and you can see what's that experience look like over 4 years. And then let's look at ours, right? So we brought in 8 players. We had 7 graduate this past fall. We had this past spring, we had 1 transfer out after his freshman year, which is the only transfer out we've had in the 5 years since I've been here. But look at all the games played, right? We had 1 player who tore his ACL twice. And he's the one at the bottom. He had 3 years of being injured and then was able to make an appearance as a senior. And then, an even better story, like, we've got kind of the 5 that played a ton of games early and the whole way through. But then Lou, our goalkeeper this year, came in as the, bottom of the depth chart. But like, because we only keep 3 goalkeepers and we keep developing the players that we have, you look at junior year, he starts a third of the games, and then senior year he starts 16, and then he's off to do his 5th year. So like, another thing I think too for alums too is just to recognize the talent we've had within the squad. Look at where our players are going off for their 5th year. Oregon State was in the Final Four. Virginia Tech is always a top program. UCLA was a top 10 seed, always one of the top programs in the country. Vermont, our player that we lost to transfer went to South Carolina, and now he's doing his 5th year too. So, I mean, even without the resources, we get great players. And then just kind of looking at the A10 and some of the trends I was talking about transfers, international graduates. Look at the makeup of the rosters going into the fall. Some that are very transfer heavy, those that aren't transfer heavy, very international heavy. And then, us, we've got 1 transfer coming into the team. We got 0 internationals, and obviously we don't have grad school. So you kind of see the contrast, us within the conference, us against some of the top programs. And I think the things that this highlights of, what our culture is about and what I want alums to know about, like, what this team looks like, what why we're different. I mean, we, like the campus itself, it's a relationship centered commitment to the development of our players over 4 years. It's why they stay 4 years. It's why we don't run players off. Players don't give up on us. We don't give up on them. It's we have very high athletic ambition and standards. But at the same time, we're creating a space where everyone's able to maximize their post-soccer career possibilities. And then, I think every year we strive to compete on the national level. It's a belief in these areas where I think we're really different and great, more so than the areas where maybe we've got some shortages where we don't have the resources that other schools have. But I think that we more than make up with it with some of the substance that we offer, and the commitment that we all have to one another, and the belief that we can still find great players. Just sort of, I think reinforcing some of the things that I just said. I'll skip ahead. And I want to kind of talk about your role, and then I want to open it up to some questions. But I think for the alums, what I want to see, and I kind of look at this as like, I just finished my 5th year. I think the first phase of this was so focused on, getting competitive and how much can we drive the program. And now there's a real focus on, all right, how do we build out everything to be as strong as possible? And how do we maximize this tremendous resource that we have and the people that we have that have come through the program? And, I think to really engage with the idea that we can be this superior network and commitment to one another, along with really believing that we can be great on the field. I think it's one of the things that, like, for all of us, if we don't start at that point, if we start to concede that, because of our size or our scholarship, that, we shouldn't expect to be one of the best programs in the country, then we're selling ourselves short. But I think if we've got a group of, hundreds of alums out there that believe that we can do it and want to find any kind of way that they can support it, then, I think we've really got something. And ultimately for alums too, I think having the perspective to be able to reflect back on how meaningful this experience was to you, and also understand that there's still a lot in it for you, right? There's still relationships that you haven't formed within the Davidson soccer community, whether it's with other alums, whether it's with current players. And, I think, like, the major goals that we have for alums are creating more opportunities to connect, and also to, like, kind of bring alums in to know our team, because we've got an awesome group of people who are representing this thing that you're a part of in a really great way. And I think that if you get to know them, you'll get a lot of really positive things out of forming new relationships. So, I think just kind of looking at what that looks like, and how you can participate and engage with this, like, still be a part of this team, like, still view this not just as the team on the field, but view this as something that's larger than that you play a really significant role in. Take pride in how we're unique and different in the experience, and knowing our players and what they're doing, and what we're producing, and show up, like, check in on events. The one in Charlotte we had, we were, just kind of hanging out at the end, and I look over, and John Olin is talking with Tavis, who just graduated like 2 years ago, and Olin was on the, the 92 team. and they're talking about business, and Tav's got some business ideas, and they're talking for like 30 minutes. And, it's both of them get so energized just from like being at different points in your life, but having this shared experience. And I think for alums, I want there to be like a real, energy around the idea that like those are really great things to be a part of, and they're out there because of the people that we've got in our community. So, and, getting to know our players, looking at our roster, seeing if there's anything, anyone from your area. And one of the things, like, I think every year kind of knowing what our seniors are doing, knowing what they're looking to do post grad, like, we've got some that maybe have jobs or plans lined up, but others that don't, when, alums can be really helpful in those moments. And I think like just getting the idea of alums, our alumni giving has been strong as I think a number, but as a participation percentage, we should be way better. And I really, I hate asking for money. It's not something that like I want to go out there and do a whole lot, but I want alums to just be like, all right, if it's a 4-year commitment to just giving something, it means a lot, and if we start to drive that number up, participation, and then, I think if there are moments where alums have an opportunity to give more, then that obviously can be meaningful because what you're giving to, the type of experience that we're trying to really produce here. And if the people, then it just means that much more. And then I'm just, just kind of putting up there our seniors, and where they are, what they're looking to do. We've got Eamon's looking to go to law school, probably not immediately. Blake's been working in real estate, finance. Thomas looking in business and finance. Lyman, also in sort of finance, investment management. Vinny, business consulting, HR, and then Cy is work this summer in investment banking. And so, I think just if you see those names and you see something where you're like, oh, that's, I might be able to offer something to one of those guys, always happy to put you in touch. And I think it means a lot when alums reach out instead of, it having to work the other way of, our seniors looking for, reaching out for support. So, and just put a few things up here. I think one of the things I've seen from meeting with alums the past few weeks is that this idea that if I think just kind of get a group of advocates together, like guys that, we send our emails out and, I think we get decent, percentage of reading it. But when we have things going on, when we have in-person stuff, if we've got guys at kind of every generation that I can text, email, and be like, all right, reach out to your group, and we can make it more personal that way. I think we can start to drive these events. Like my hope is that next summer we had, say, 30 total on the in-person stuff events. Let's get to 50. Maybe try some different cities, where there just starts to be more supportive. Like there's a commitment of like, oh, there's a Davidson soccer event in town. Like I'm going to be there. And the last thing I'll say too is just the, kind of, similar to when John and Tavis were kind of connecting at the Charlotte event, but like when, like Lucas and Henry and all the guys who came back for the alumni game, and we get all the young guys who came back. And then we had this awesome group from, 03, 04, and we were at Brick House. I went and met like the young guys for a beer, and then those guys are there and we're walking out and they go and pull them back in. Everyone hangs out for like an hour and a half. And I think it's just, the more things like that we can create, I just think it just reminds us all, like, there's so many great people that have come through here and it's such an awesome thing. So I'm going to stop my share there. And then, try to jam as much in without boring you guys. But, you know, like curious, any questions or comments from the alums? And you can just unmute.
Hey, Mike, thanks so much for doing this. Pat Woodward from Annapolis. Really
Pat.
appreciate you doing this. I'm happy to be contributing to Charlie's endowment. Can you explain to me, or all of us, what that goes towards?
Yeah, so Charlie's endowment is it will name my position after Charlie. So, you know, I'll be you know, the head coach is always going to be known as the Charlie Slagle head coach of men's soccer.
Right.
And the idea at the beginning was what we found to be the most impactful thing is having a second assistant, right? And so the school funds one, and for the past few years, we've had to fundraise to pay for the second. So Charlie's endowment will, as it starts to spin off the interest, is going to cover the second assistant.
That's great.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, hopefully within the next like 3 to 5 years, maybe the school picks up the second assistant, you know, and then we can move that towards covering like you know, some of the things that we have, you know, wanted to do, like doing a team building trip in the preseason, you know, where the budget runs over and we've got to cover it through fundraising. Then all of a sudden we've got this money that we know is going to cover it, and it just gives us so much more flexibility. So I think in the short term, it's going to cover our second assistant, which is massive.
That's great. One quick follow-up. I love the DC United logo. Do you have merchandise available yet on that, or? We
are. So the idea is to kind of build this out is like this being the alumni group. So
Right.
we're gonna print some stuff out.
Good.
We're gonna get it to alums at events, or, you know, certainly if you can't be there in person, and you're supporting in other ways, like we want to get you something that you can wear.
That's great.
But yeah, no, we wanted to, yeah, we're gonna start to get some merch out there.
Excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks, Pat. Anyone else? I'm gonna,
Hey,
Mateo, Henry, Lucas.
can the group hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well,
Well,
or I think the brothers who are leading alumni attendance over the last 5 years, especially being out of region. So
yeah, so I'm not even an alumni. I'm the brother of Walter, twin brother
Yeah.
of Walter, and my daughter, his niece, she's Christina. She'll be a senior this year. And our dad went to Davidson, and so we have some Davidson roots, and it's I played college soccer as well. Not at Davidson. Slagle wanted me, but I gave him the Heisman, said I couldn't do it. But at any rate, what is the endowment? Is that like, what is the amount of that endowment?
So the amount, I don't know. So I'm guessing, because I know it's about like 1.6 million endows a scholarship. So it's probably somewhere around 3. Are you talking about the Slagle endowment or the scholarship endowment?
Just well, I guess I was reading some Davidson fundraising stuff and how to endow a position, a student is like 1.6 million. Is that right? Is that the number?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's significant, which, you know, I think is also, and one of the things that like I appreciate about Davidson, but you know, is also difficult, is that Davidson doesn't pull student fees to fund athletic scholarships. Like, we're not pulling money from the other side of the campus. It's only come through endowed funds, right? So it's grown slowly, but at the same time, I think some of the things that other schools do to finance athletic scholarship is like pretty foggy as far as like where they're pulling money from. And it's, you know, I think it's very consistent with who Davidson is, that, you know, we're not someone who's coming here to study biology and not play a sport. should not be funding a soccer scholarship. You know, we've got to kind of get it from our soccer community.
Mhm. Yeah. And what's the most efficient use of money at this point? Like today, August 5th, if you said, hey, someone says, I have $100,000 I want to give the team, not 1.6 million, but $100,000. What would you do with that money?
I think the most effective thing we've been able to do is just increasing our recruiting reach, going to more events, bringing in more visits. You know, that I think if you look at our roster, it's been the investment in that, and obviously the second assistant, and just being able to kind of outwork and you know, kind of dig around to find players. And then that, and also, you know, we've been able to use some an expendable scholarship that's been really helpful as far as you know, maybe being able to add a player to a year, because you know, our scholarships, we don't have anyone who's on more than 20,000 a year. Like we have to spread it around pretty thinly.
And do you think you have a pretty good idea of the most efficient ways to raise money? That the matching funds thing always comes across the radar. So we
Yeah.
have some alumni who will match the $30,000 mark or whatever. Do you think that's an effective way to get others to participate? I don't know the stats on what happened on some of those fundraisers in terms of what inspired others to give or participate.
They've, you know, and I don't know if it's the most effective, but it has been effective because it sort of, you know, creates a little bit of drive. Like, I mean, I'm very open to other ideas that might kind of generate it. Like, I mean, I would love the idea of like maybe doing some fundraisers around gatherings, you know, kind of like bringing all these things together of like, let's get people together and then let's, you know, let's try to raise a little bit of money out of it. So it's kind of, you know, it's feel good all the way around. You know, because I do, and it's one of the things that I really believe being here that after, you know, over 5 years is like that we're here to win soccer games, but the greatest thing about being here is the people that have come through here that, you know, you get to meet. And it's like, it's pretty energizing for me to get out there and meet alums who are out there doing all these cool things. And then also be like, well, all right, well, now come back and meet our players, like come back and go to a game. You know, we've got some guys who've kind of faded out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm very open to other ideas, but I think anything that like kind of brings it all together, that gets the people together would be, you know, I'd be excited to try some of those.
Yeah. I've thought about some instituting some songs for the crowd, you know, like at the 20-minute mark, you know, you could break into, you know, this English soccer song, or the, you know, 70th minute, you break into another, depending on this game score, you know, have some fan participate, to make it really like a sort of a family, almost raucous, no matter what the result is, like just a good old time to go to a Davidson soccer game, you know?
I'm all for that.
Yeah, you know, like bringing the community and like even more students, that like the soccer game is where you go. You don't bother with the football team or other sports. You go to the soccer game because it's the world's greatest sport, you know?
Yeah. And I think as we get really good, I think you know, we've seen bigger crowds, you know, we've seen like really cool environments. We play more meaningful games. Like that's what we want too. Like we want it to be this like real community thing that people have a great time coming to games.
Yeah. Is there any chance that Davidson would host the College Cup again?
Yeah.
If you're the Charlie Slagle Davidson soccer coach, you think there might be a little bit of, you know, pull there?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what stadium we'd hold it in now.
Yeah.
You know, the old football stadium's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for it if someone else wants to do whatever work Charlie did to get it here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So Mike, if Davidson has 2 scholarships, what does the other A10 teams? Are they full scholarship all the way through, or where do we compare within the A10?
Most, I would say, I'm gonna guess that like 8 to 10 are fully funded. Maybe like 2 to 3 are less. Like UMass I know is low, but they're leaving the A10. I don't think anyone else is below 7 scholarships. But no one else, no one else has our need-based aid. So we've got that resource that we can use. So it's not that bleak, because we can package in some good ways if we find students who have a demonstrated need.
When does UMass leave the A10?
Next year.
Okay.
And we're down to 13. Still the
Okay.
biggest league in the country.
Right. Walter and I noticed that many of the games this season are, a lot of home games, which is great because Davidson has a nice pitch. Hate the turf games generally. There's Philly game, St. Joe's. I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to be ugly. So many games down in North Carolina, in the Carolinas region. It's is that because of travel expense and that kind of thing? Does that play into some of those decisions when you're scheduling?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as like prioritizing what we're going to spend money on,
Mhm.
we've got so many good teams around here.
Yeah.
My first year we went out and played Portland and Oregon State. I mean, it's an expensive trip, right? And we could go play, Clemson and Charlotte and get the same kind of level of competition at 10% the cost. Probably we'd make money. We'd get guarantee going on to Clemson. So yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate the area we're in because we can schedule any way we want. We've got so many good teams. And I don't, it just, with our budget, it doesn't make sense to pay to go play like the same level of games that we'd have to fly to when we can bust them.
Yeah. I know last year there was no Davidson soccer game during the parents weekend or the Wildcat weekend. You
Yeah.
guys were up north somewhere, or we were, I guess I should say. I think there is a game this Wildcat weekend this season. Do you look at that when you're scheduling to make sure that parents and that, hey, parents are going to be here. This is a good weekend. We need to have the team on the pitch that Saturday? Or
I don't, because I think it usually falls on an A10 weekend, and that's out of our control.
okay,
So we just got to get luck of the draw to get
I
it
see.
to be at home for that one.
Right.
So I wanted to say, Mike, we think you're doing a great job. And Molly, I wanted to thank you for, organizing this, and just say hello to all the other guys, people on the call. It's great to see you all.
Yeah,
Hey,
no.
Where are you in school, Lucas?
I'm at Sidney Kimmel at Thomas Jefferson up in Philly, in Center
Okay.
City, Philly.
Yeah, great. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, always appreciate your support and the foam fingers. So
Yeah.
Mike, this is Dane Erickson calling in from Denver, Colorado.
hey, Dan.
Class of 2001. I had a quick question. It's from a distance, it seems like you've really built momentum with the program, that like every year you're more successful. This last year seemed pretty exciting. You've developed, it looks like, some pretty good talent that can really compete, as well as like filled it, it seems like some relatively high level talent, as well as filling in role players and team oriented aspects that, to compensate and compete when other programs have so much, more financial resources and scholarships. With the recent changes that you listed at the beginning of this presentation, how fearful are you that you're going to be able to continue that momentum? And how much do those bigger shifts affect college soccer, and in particular, the circles that you recruited?
Yeah, so some of the things, and everyone's just kind of projecting as far as like what the larger impact's going to be. My take on it at this point is, if you look at the the power athletic programs, that they are all going to be adding 20 football scholarships. With that, they have to add 20 women's scholarships. With that, they have revenue sharing of $22 million a year. if they're going to take on expenses, I don't think that many, if any, are going to do it in a significant way in a men's non-revenue sport. Right. So, I mean, we'll wait and see. On the other side of that, I see a lot of schools who I think are really going to struggle, that are chasing big time football, that are going to try to revenue share, that are going to try to increase scholarships. And then, you know, you can increase women's to match that 20 scholarships you add in football, or you can decrease men's and others, you know? So I think my feel is that it's going to be more of a resource drop across Division One. There might be a few that like really lean into men's soccer and they have the ability to, you know, say do 20 scholarships. I don't think anyone's doing 28. I'll be floored. So if those programs go to 20, it doesn't change a whole lot for us, you know. I think as long as we're, you know, we keep like kind of gradually kind of going up as far as what we're able to do. And, you know, ultimately, like I do, and, you know, I do really believe that like what college athletics should be as far as this education centered, highly competitive soccer experience, like you know, we're pretty unbeatable. And, you know, what that is, it's just, you know, the finance of it can be difficult. So, you know, I'm not too discouraged about what might be coming. I think that there might actually be more opportunity. I mean, for one, I know that like, and we've talked about as a staff, that next year programs have to get down to 28. Like UVA has 42 players on their roster. Right? You know, they're going to have to change how they're doing things. You know, there've been these programs that just sort of talent hoard and bring in 35, 36. And it's like, all right, whatever, Chapel Hill's got 36. Like, all right, whoever makes it, great. And they take some really good players who would maybe thrive in our environment. And now they got to chop it down. And some of those players are going to be available to us. And, you know, I think at the domestic level, I think there'll be even more opportunity. And like you know, I think we know how to attack that market pretty well.
Cool. Very great answer. Sounds exciting. Then the last question is just about international students. Do you philosophically don't want to recruit internationally? Or is it just too hard and expensive, or I don't know what's it. Look, I understand that you know, being a domestic player and all that, I'd prefer a solidly domestic program, but I'm wondering, yeah, and I watched the Davidson basketball team where it's like they just go after it. It's like most of the team is international. What's your take on that? And yeah,
I would love to add 1 or 2 internationals a year, right? In a class of 6 to 8, I'd love to add 1 to 2 internationals, but our need-based aid only covers as a max right now, only covers 50% for an international. So for us, top players are getting multiple full ride offers from other places. We would have to add 40,000 in scholarship to that. It's just not doable. So yeah, that's one of the things I think if like scholarship ever went up, I would like to find the right international markets to kind of, you know, build a roster that maybe is like a quarter or less international, like still really lean into like developing the best domestic players, but then supplement it with, you know, a little bit of experience internationally.
Totally. That's cool. Yeah, that totally makes sense. The math, I understand that. Cool. Thanks. Congrats on all you're doing with the program. It's been really exciting to watch.
No, thanks a lot for checking in.
Just a thought from me being kind of far from Davidson. But there, you know, there's, you know, St. Joe's and LaSalle are up here, and it's always like one of the most fun moments was when I got to see you guys play at St. Joe's. I'm involved in like the regular Davidson alumni network does like a city specific like indexing of alumni. So I'm like connected in with the Philly group. I don't know if you guys have thought about doing that with soccer specific alumni, possibly. You know, I think it's
Yep.
always like I always make an effort to look at the schedule and find, you know, the game in Philly or New York that I can go to. But if, you know, if you could go through and do like an index of what alumni are in what city and get emails, you could send, you know, the week before you guys go to, you know, the Bronx to play Fordham, you could send that blast out to the NYC alumni or whatever, and they could, you know, just an idea. I think that would be a good way to just like remind people and get like, you know, turnout at away games could be interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's something we're going to experiment with a few things this year as far as trying to get gatherings of alums at games. You know, I think like at the Raleigh event last week, it was like we have a bunch of guys around High Point, and they're like, all right, well, let's host it, like let's get it, and we can direct some communication, just being like, all right, you know, Lucas is hosting a tailgate before the game, but that's something I think we can do this year, which I think would be great. And we've got those, you know, we've got that information that we can reach out to alums in the area.
Building off of that, I feel like we could probably send it to just the general non-soccer alums as well. I don't know if that's what Lucas was implying to, but I feel
Yeah.
like just Davidson alumni in general, not necessarily soccer, because I'm sure a lot of people went to games and like had that love and are missing that. And so tapping into that too.
Yeah. No, I'm all for getting as big of a Davidson gathering together as we can. And I'll see what we can do, just like as far as like communication wise. We can definitely reach out to soccer, but if we can expand it at all, we will.
Mike, I just wanted to put in a plug. I guess 3 or 4 years ago, you did a Zoom meeting like this and had a number of players, current players on that. And out of that came a relationship that I had for the last 4 years with Blake Peterson.
Yeah.
You know, an email relationship, but that's really been fun to connect with him, kind of go through his ups and downs as a player and see what he's doing in the summer. And so I think having that opportunity was a great way for me to stay connected. I mean, you know, I'm a oldie moldy from 68. So, you know, my days are long gone from playing soccer, but it's been fun to stay connected through Blake. And there was one other guy too earlier. So any way you can encourage that and get people to develop that relationship, I think really makes a difference for keeping alumni involved. And I think it makes a difference for the players.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think it's one of the things that like we'll get back to at least maybe 2 times a year, because we did the breakout rooms with alums and players on some gatherings. And I think that was a really good thing that we haven't done in a bit, but we will certainly schedule at least 2 of those this year to try to, you know, form more of those connections and relationships.
Are the players back on campus already?
We start tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah,
Right. That's pretty good, right?
Yep. No, we have meetings tomorrow and then first practice Wednesday morning.
And some rain after that, I guess.
And some rain after that, yeah. And then we'll navigate the weather.
Do you have an indoor facility that you can practice in, Mike?
No, and that's low on the list of potential donations to build an indoor facility. But yeah, we figure it out, you know. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of rain. Hopefully we don't get a whole lot more, because things don't drain when we get too much. But yeah, we'll figure it out.
We used to hold winter practices in Johnson Gym, old Johnson Gym, which is now the College Union. right? That was our indoor practice facility. We had, there was the club sport played indoor, and varsity, like we would do shooting drills with radar guns, and Rob Ukrop was blasting at 100 miles an hour and people were ducking. It was like, just murder ball in there. But we did a lot in the wintertime on the gym floor because it was basically an enclosed, there wasn't that much room. It was just bleachers and brick walls. So, I think there is some opportunity to do some skill work and that kind of thing on bad days. Our locker room was underneath that. It was really small and, there wasn't anything sexy about it, but it was effective in a way we did a lot with very few resources back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
So,
no, we still got to get creative every once in a while.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, what does the new stadium offer for you as far as resources?
Weight room is a big thing. Yeah. So the strength, it's awesome. It's that's really like the nicest ad we've had since I've been here. So the guys, just like a whole new level of resource as far as developing that part of the game.
I took a tour of that on my 40th reunion back in June, first weekend in June. It was great to see that. And they also on the top floor they have they have a room there that kind of overlooks the stadium, and they featured, I forget the guy's name, but they featured a soccer player who started a program.
Yeah, Street Soccer USA.
Street Soccer, thank you.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about that guy? That was amazing.
Yeah. So, the really unfortunate thing was last year when we played Fordham, we were supposed to go on Friday and go to Street Soccer.
Okay.
And like tour that they have a facility and like get a little bit of experience, understand everything that's going on there. But then we got rain. The airport got flooded in LaGuardia, so we didn't make it in time. So that's it's just another example of like alums we have doing these really cool things out there, and that was kind of a missed opportunity because of weather to connect our guys with such a awesome organization. But yeah, that's we'll do it again next time we're up there.
So the program is Street Soccer. If you Googled it,
Street Soccer USA, and it's
okay. Thank you.
They run events, is I best understand it, to support homeless communities.
Okay.
They're involved in like the Homeless World Cup, and but they run big events to fundraise, and then run programming to help those communities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You looking forward to the is it the opener against Charlotte at Charlotte?
Yeah. No, we've it's as tough an opener as you can have. So we're kind of anxious about it,
Right, yeah. Because they have they have a lot of returning players or transfers or international players like they did last year.
Sorry, I got interrupted by my 4-year-old.
That's good. No, that's more important than getting blown out by Charlotte.
Yeah. No, we start on the road with 2 tournament teams. It's going to be really really challenging.
Mm-hmm. Is Wake, how will you play them, and how will you be evaluating players during that, and like like, do you think you have a starting 11 already lined up? Because I have one in my head just based on the newcomers. I've already outlined it. I can send it to you if you want.
Yeah,
seeing some of these young chaps, but
we'll give them 4 days to earn it, But we'll go at it more like a regular game than like an exhibition. So I think just test ourselves against a top 5 team right away and see where we're at.
Yeah. Are you thinking that some of these new guys may get some fairly substantial playing time? I mean, they're pretty well hyped up on the write-ups. I'm thinking they could make some pretty good impacts.
We always expect them to compete.
Yeah.
No, they're going to be some battles.
Yeah.
They're going to be some battles in a good way,
I think there's gonna be some depth, and I mean, the midfield is gonna be, probably have some more technical ability in it, and, just, it could be look a little different, the style of play based on the fact that we might, hold the ball and knock around in the midfield actually a little bit. I don't know. I mean, of course, it's game to game, you're gonna do different things against different teams, and you're the coach, you're the Charlie Slagle head coach of Davidson College.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
a high bar to, I'm interested to see how it all comes together. I mean, I have faith. We have faith.
Yeah, I mean, we're evolving, right? I think last year we were a very high level pressing and transition team that was developing on the ball. So this year we hope to be a really high level pressing and transition team that is also very good on the ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I know we're getting close to the top of the hour for anybody who does need to jump off. If I could just offer a few kind of closing comments, and then if there's anything else, Mike, or that anybody has. First off, thank you again for being on. I know it's always, we talk about, why do people give and what works well and what do people get behind, and obviously it's the impact that you can have, but it's, people at the end of the day are given to people, and that starts with you all being connected to the programs, to the players, to your experience. So kudos to Mike and everything he's put into the program. Again, thank you all for being part of the call. I am going to drop my contact information in the chat. Mike's busy with X's and O's, so if you ever do want to have conversations specifically about fundraising and initiatives for soccer, please reach out. I'm more than happy to talk through any of those situations with you. And also, this is super down to the nitty gritty with logistics, but if you have alums who you talk to, and if they ever mention, oh, well, I didn't see that email, or I didn't get that, I know we all get bombarded with emails, but it sometimes it's fairly easy for people to kind of check don't contact me anymore or unsubscribe, which in our system that can really kind of knock them off from what they're receiving from the college. So if you ever hear of those folks and they are wanting to be contacted by the college, then again, you can just send me a note or have them contact me and we can get that straightened out for them. So again, those are my kind of closing pieces. Thank you all for being here. Mike, anything else on your end, or anybody for the good of the group?
No, just thanks again, everyone, for showing up. I think it's, and just, stay tuned in for things that we're doing. I think I recognize that there's a lot more that we can do. But also, like, we want to bring it to you. Like, we want to give you the opportunities to engage, and like the idea that when this really succeeds and we win something really meaningful is that we have, it's not just alums looking at a tweet and seeing that we did, like, really feeling like they're still a part of it. And, with all the people that we've got, like, such great people that have come through this program. So I just appreciate every time you guys show up. It just makes us feel better about, like, the possibilities of how we can keep growing this. And I look forward to seeing a lot of you in the fall.
Can you get some more foam fingers? So the one we're getting worn out, the hand is starting to come through the actual foam,
I'll get to work on that. I don't want you to be fingerless. Yeah.
All right, good.
All right. Well,
Thanks, Mike. Hey,
Hey.
thank you.
all right, well, I'll see you all. I think I'm getting called to dinner duty.
Thanks, Coach.
We'll see
Appreciate
you
it.
out there on the field. Thanks a lot for checking in.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys.